All right. Sorry for the delay and the restart of the live stream, but I had realized I left something open, and I had it on there. It's this. I left this open, but I didn't have all the clients out of there. Nothing was it's not the clients. The code for my demo I had set up. So yeah. You would only have access to one computer that's set up in our demo, set up in our lab. But if you were to have gotten that password, I just realized I had it in a corner of the screen. Not all of it, but I'm super tinfoil hat paranoid, so it's just not a worry now. So that's why I shut down the stream real quick. I'm like, I don't know if I dragged that in the screen or not. I couldn't remember. I err on the side of caution and reset the password for my demo account that I have set up here because it's something I want to talk about today, but I also don't want people logging into this dashboard. Granted, it's 2FA, but still, if you have any piece of it, I always err on the side of caution. I'm highly security-minded like that, with the exception of I had the password in a text file because it's a demo account, and that's how we set the demo account up for stuff like that. So I just hit stop. I'm like, did I drag that into screen? I didn't want to know, so I purged it. So if you're wondering what the incident was, it's that. But we'll start with this project. My son wandered off anyways. His interest in being on the live stream was like, yeah. So his interest is like narrow. He's back in the other room playing with the Raspberry Pi. So let's start with hello everyone, and hello everyone that wasn't here before that's here now. But maybe this is because I instantly have a lot more people than I had before. So I'm looking at the numbers over here and I'm like, okay, I see a lot more people. So cool. So back to the stream. This is a project where I was at last night. This is one of the projects we have going on. I was taking some photos of it. Why is it in checkbox mode? There we go. All this extra cat cable. Look at all this. This is a project we're doing right now. Another big build out. Everything is, yeah. Oh my gosh, saved in a text file on an encrypted drive and an encrypted system. So exactly. Yeah, I changed that password. So for those of you wondering, yes. I'm not. I mean, all that password what gets you is this. One demo computer in our RMM dashboard, which I'm going to talk about next, but I don't want anyone else logging in while I'm here because then I just don't like that idea at all. This is it. This is all it has access to is this entire thing. It's a demo account we're using for some other for some IT services we're reselling and some demos, and of course a video I got up and coming. So I went ahead and reset it. I don't want to have to worry about anyone else resetting it, and whatever. Back to this. So these projects that I do, and this is why it's difficult. This is roughly 45 minutes, an hour from my office where my team is working to build this. And, this is what it looks like kind of the interim. And it's interesting to see all these, projects in flight, I guess you can call it, how they're coming along and everything else, and some of the wiring that's going on. This is all the different areas. So it's interesting compared to one of the other ones we do. We're actually putting in a lot more hard lines because all the different things that we have that are going in this particular location, like the Revved Up Fun project, if you follow me and seen that project we did, this one's very similar type of place, but it's a lot more hard lines, a whole lot more, not just because the scale and scope is bigger, but because they want everything hardwired. So all these hard lines across here are all for more games that are going in. Like every one of them gets a network drop. A lot of these games usually work off Wi-Fi. There's also the scale and scope of this building, which they shoved everything in our room, but it's not built out, so this happens. This is one of the other IT rooms. They've got two IT rooms. They got the split conditioners in there. So this IT room, which I'm kind of surprised the air conditioned. The only thing that on the chart at the moment is going to be in this room is a handful of switches. But hey, I'm glad they thought ahead to at least put the air conditioner in. It's actually not that expensive, so I'm happy to see that in there. So there's going to be a handful of switches in here. And they just cram the closet, so I'm like, hey, whatever. But we're taking pictures of a lot of it because one of the things we do is try to document all the projects, document the progress of the project as we're doing it. And we started this project, I don't know if I have a photo of the very beginning, but of course with pretty much none of these walls here. And they have giant Legos, which I thought was really cool too. You can't go wrong with giant Legos. I don't know what this is all part of. There's so many people involved in this. Now, some of the challenges we've already run into is we came in a little bit late on the job because the original vendor couldn't fulfill it based on the time slot, so now we're doing it, and they wanted the wiring ran across here. Well, obviously that's a challenge once they built that structure here, so a whole lot of things had to be moved around, and we had to repath a lot of the wires. So it's been kind of fun to see the progress of all this, and this is me there last night, but this is like that other thing that I do. I know a lot of people want some on-site jobs. The other thing too, it's kind of hard to make an on-site job for stuff like this because we come in for like 2 hours on, what was yesterday? Yesterday was Wednesday, so we were there for 2 or 3 hours yesterday just to pull a certain section of it, maybe a little bit longer, and we're working a night shift when we're doing it because we're coordinating so we're not bumping into the electricians because we have similar routing paths in the same area where things have to be run, so we can't really be there at the same time in the same area as the electrician. So this is a lot of coordination. We prefer the night shift. We actually like when no one's there so no one bothers us. I got up on the skylift and took a few photos because all this is underground. So these poles, this side's HVAC for the not furnace, but the refrigerators that are going to be there because it's going to be like a bar, and I have all the refrigerators there, and this side over here is where we have all of our wires pulled through. But then we also have conduit here, here, and here, so all the kiosks come through. And of course, all this was done with underground cabling, so we had to do all the poles in that. And this is just some of those challenges we've run into where the electrician laid the groundwork, laid the poles, and I can see if I can zoom in any. Yeah, so you can kind of get an idea. We have some of the cable bundled here and cable pulled here. This is all the plumbing work on this side as well, and in between, we have wiring in between all the plumbing. So these projects take a lot of steps because first we get some of the wire pulled through, then they got to build part of the facade, then they got to fill in and cap it, and then they have to do that. And that's why these jobs are hard to film because it's not like I have time because I'm not my full-time job isn't necessarily a videographer. It is making sure that the funding is good for these projects because we had to rent lots of man lifts. This is also part of the planning and part of the fight that's going on. Those are Tom's man lifts that he rented, and the blue ones are mine. The orange ones belong to other people. Good coincidence, we didn't rent them from the same place, so they're different colors. And some of them have been using our lifts because it turns out that there's not much security because they are the same brand lift, and you can take the key from one and put it in the other. So even though we take the keys out, we find our lifts in a new location, and then we find that they weren't charged. So that's been part of the challenge, too, with some of these shops. And it's whatever, it happens. We're the only ones with the big articulating skylift, though, and that's because we came in after the fact and are asking us to put things up after certain walls were built so high, so we have to get on there. But this is like that other side that I want to do more videos on, but it's always challenging to do because there's always so much else that I have to do as a business owner, and I'm not a full-time videographer, so that's how that project goes. But it's kind of cool being there. I have some video of the project right here, just kind of give you guys an overview of what this place looks like, and I'll do some assemblance video on this when it's done, because it's come together really nice. Once the IT rooms are built out, I'm hoping to get back out there and do like a video on it. When we built that soccer stadium, I still have not been back out there since that project got finished. And it's been, a few months. I just don't have a reason to go out there. Once we installed it all and it all worked, I've never been back out there. So I don't have like a whole finishing video. And, I want to, when we go update it, go talk about some of that project and some of what we did to put that together. And yes, that's an indoor go-kart track for anyone wondering what that is here. So that's indoor go-karts. We did not get the contract related to the IT, so I don't know what Wi-Fi is going in here. We actually only got the part for the structured cabling, and we're not clear who's doing the other part of it. The other downside of bringing camera gear in here, that's dust you're seeing. That's not refraction off of any of the any like light refraction off the lens or dirty lens. That's dust because they're doing the floors. This has been going on. There's between drywall dust, floor dust, everything else, there's a constant level of dirt that gets these places, which makes filming that much harder. But I figured I'd cover that project. Now, the part that started all this other mess was the RMM tool. I'm going to do some more videos on this. This is our RMM tool for that we use Solarwinds, and it is how we manage all of our managed clients. So what I did was I was able to create, because we're looking at targeting more IT companies and helping them out with the back end of this and then reselling this to them. And I wanted to see what kind of dashboard access I could limit. And it's kind of cool. SolarWinds has really good permission. So normally my staff logs in. Our logins allow us to see just this full list all the way fills up here, all the different client sites we have. And then inside of there, you get to see all the workstations and network devices and everything else. Well, the good news is SolarWinds has granular permissions that allow us to get in here and see individual networks or say assign a user to a client. So we're looking at that, and our plan is to start working more with IT firms and helping them set this up. When they have a smaller network they need to manage, where they have some internal IT to take care of help desk, and then we take care of some of the other side. So we've got this demo network set up. It'll help them manage network devices. It helps them manage asset tracking, inventory of what they have there. And we're going to use it as a visibility tool for them. Question here. I don't see any more comments. Did the comments stop? So I'm going to type a hello here. Are the comments still working? Still working. Weird. I just noticed I'm looking over here. Usually you guys are commenting on stuff. So let's see. Okay, I see some comments. Perfect. Just double checking. I want to make sure it didn't stop over here and I wasn't missing questions or I had to refresh the page. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. So this is what the RMM dashboard tool actually looks like. And this is where we spend a lot of our time and my staff does. And this is really a nice system. So we're going to go over here like to workstation. I don't have any servers in here, so it's going to be blank on there. But this would allow some of our goals is we're really familiar with this. We know how to manage, we know how to configure, and all the detail work. The side that can be challenging, especially if you're a smaller IT firm, is getting all this set up can be a lot and managing it. And we want to help smaller IT companies be able to take care of that, and that's why I'm going to have some demo videos on this. Of course you can go to SolarWinds Direct, but can you manage the SolarWinds? Do you meet the minimum number of seats and things like that? Because we're doing this at scale and do with more and more clients on there, we're very familiar with it. We've been using this dashboard for a number of years. Now, one of the things that lets us do is handle the managed antivirus, the web protection, the patch management, create monitoring templates, edit each workstation so you can move things on an individual workstation basis, remote access, and this is a cool one too, is the remote background. Actually, I don't have the password handy for that. Ryan, I do. So let's look at the remote background. Remote background. And this lets you get into the background of that system. So what this is like, being able to get right back there on the so if you have to do something like restart a service, start and stop things, remote process control, so you want to kill something on that particular server, you can do that. Remote service control to restart different services that are running on the back end. And you can do this without having to get directly into the machine. So you can just start and stop a service, printers, for example, to fix problems like that. There's also, when you're on a remote command line for the background, if you have the antivirus set up and you want to be able to go ahead and do things like look at log files without disrupting the users while they're using it, this is another handy thing it does in there. Yeah, write that down. The password is all stars. Absolutely. It's star, 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 star. I should set that as the password, Let's see. There. We typed it out. It's all stars. I haven't seen that as a password. We should check that on the Have I Got Pwn database and see if it's in there. So here's the directory for it. Like I said, it's your standard, so you can see what's going on. Now, where else do I have this? Oh, here we go. I'm going to drag this over here. Things we can't show you. I prefer Screen Connect. It works great in Linux. The one downside is the Screen Connect is kind of my favorite go-to, works in Linux and everything else. The SolarWinds is a separate product that does not come with Screen Connect or access to it. But you do have access with SolarWinds to their MSP Anywhere software, which we're like, it's okay. So what I'm going to do is dr/list.txt. And you can see list.txt just showed up here. So you can see it's the same system and it gives you that back-end access that you need. Now, it's kind of neat. I do like the SolarWinds, but the first question a lot of people ask me about it is, oh, the patch management. I've seen someone says, check out Manage Engine for updates. Yeah, I don't know any company that is wonderful or perfect at patch management. All of them are good for a day. Microsoft makes a change. It doesn't work anymore. Microsoft they don't really give good heads up to all these companies about how their patching system works. Microsoft's answer is you don't use third party, you use us to patch it. Anyone who works in IT knows Microsoft doesn't work very well for patching. That's just a fact of things. That's why there's this whole middleware market, is because Microsoft's failing to do many of the things that they should be doing for patch management, for dealing with that. So that's where the patching comes in when you're in SolarWinds. We're going over here to patch management, install patches now or later, run a patch scan. We kicked off a new patch scan. I think there might be a patch missing from here. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Scroll up a little bit on this. There we go. All right, let's see, remove sending, okay, clean up temp files. These are some of the scripts that are running on there right now, and these are some of the automated tasks. Cool, add automated tasks. Now, this is what's kind of cool about the way the automated tasks work. There's a ton of them built in already, and I'm waiting. The ones that you see this is waiting on run is because there's a few other features. Like I said, I'm gonna do a deeper dive. Manage Engine is actually really good. We use it. I don't have a problem with the SolarWinds running the patches. It runs them fine. We use the SolarWinds patch on everything now. We haven't really had a problem with it. There's occasional times it doesn't work, but I've seen all of them, and it's because of transitions from Microsoft. On Windows 10, it seems to work perfectly fine. Windows 7, we see some issues, but that's Windows 7. You have to get off of Windows 7 unless you want to pay for updates by the end of this year. So this is really the last year for Windows 7. But SolarWinds is a lot more than Pratt. I'm going to look up while we're on here, Manage Engine. I haven't particularly heard of it, but we use Manage Engine. What is it? Complete Solution. I'd actually never heard of them until now, but there's a lot of companies out there doing this. One of the reasons we like SolarWinds is they're not just patch management. That is a facet. They're also antivirus. They're also web filtering. So if I have in here, we set up managed web protections, settings. Actually, see if this site's blocked. Let me see. I don't know what policy we have. Trustworthy. Pornhub is trustworthy, but high risk. I think that's fun. All right. Let me see what policy we have on this. Protection policy. Strict. All right. We have a strict one. Let me apply that policy on here. Edit workstation. And a lot of people ask how we handle some of these things. You're looking at how we handle things like web protection. So we're going to say on strict. There we go. It'll push that setting to it now. Now, this is why we use SolarWinds. I have my antivirus here. I have my web. I have the patch management. I know the assets related to this. And if we go over here, and I'll show you how the asset tracking looks, because people ask about this. Keeping track of assets, pain in the butt. Keeping track of assets when you use management like this. So here's this particular site, this site. You can drill down. It would list all the computers, all the workstations, all the assets that they have that we have registered and managed with SolarWinds inside of here. So this makes it a whole lot easier to be able to get to that. So the question comes in a lot, especially like the web filtering stuff. Handling at the firewall is a pain in the butt, especially when one particular computer or a group of computers, because they're in a specific area of that client, like for us, like a transportation client would be an example when they're a dispatch client. You want to be able to drill down and take care of that and say, okay, I want to group these people into strict management and figure out, do they need access to this and do they need access to that? And do they need web filtering? So now with this web filtering, let's see. I'm going to open up see if this web filter, I don't know how long it takes to push. It usually takes about a few minutes. So I'm going to, before I pour it here, I'm going to try it here and see what the error message is, or if there's one. There we go. Good. I didn't want this to pop up. So if we try to go to said website, access to website has been blocked by your IT support provider. Yep, it has been blocked. So that's the message that they get. And this is one of the reasons I talk about why installing everything and managing certificates from the firewall side and have to push certificates to all the individual systems is a pain. SolarWinds is my answer, where we just kind of take care of that. Someone says, are we hackers? Sure, I guess. I don't know. Loosely, I would definitely identify myself as a hacker because we spend a lot of time doing security research and things like that. That's a hobby kind of outside my business, but it relates to my business. I hang out and we have a local hacking group that we put together called DC313. It's a group of us who get together and do a lot of security stuff, research, and teaching people. And we work because a lot of my friends work specifically in InfoSec as pen testers and things like that. So I identify as a hacker. That was something I would say I identify as, but my actual job is IT support. And I believe you're better off having a lot of that knowledge, having a lot of friends in InfoSec, because then you understand the attack vectors better when you spend time doing the debriefs on there. Matter of fact, if you're looking for some more reading on that, one of my favorites has always been, well, not been always, but these guys are awesome. Darknet Diaries is outstanding if you want to get into some of the deep dives of some of the things going on out there and about how some of these attacks occurred, some of the behind the scenes. Yeah, white hat. That's exactly. I'm not in. That's a better way to say it. I'm just a white hat hacker. I don't participate in anything dark, but understanding the ways and methodologies and being able to run these tests against my network, against things we install to make sure they're secure. I don't set firewalls up and assume they're secure. I take some time to do some scanning. I take some time to do some poking and prodding. I want to know that the applications you deploy are secure. I even do things like run Parrot. I have Parrot security set up, and then I have OpenVAS for Open Vulnerability Assessment, and I run that against internal servers, even though they're not externally exposed, because you want to make sure they're assumed. Those are all tools that can be associated both with black hat and your white hat. You want to make sure you're doing it. And I talked about this, or I actually, I don't know if I tweeted about it. So, Hacker One Millionaire. If you didn't see, latest, there's a guy, let me find it in the news. He was he made his first $1 million bug bounty. It was actually pretty cool. Where's that article? It gets buried because there's so many different articles about this. But there's someone who actually, there's a guy who just from pulling bug bounties on HackerOne, he's 19 years old and made his first $1 million. It's outstanding. But I think that goes hand in hand. If you want to be really good at IT, you also should be good at taking apart these systems. You should understand how these threats are coming at the clients. If you don't have a good understanding of this, you're not going to understand how to defend against it. If you don't spend some time in the InfoSec community and understand what they're doing, how they're getting into things, it's harder to defend because you're just putting up defenses. And this is sometimes why I see more people ask me things about like Saracata and stuff like that, because they're like, well, won't it just catch it? No, it won't. Matter of fact, it's actually blind to a lot of this stuff. And that's something I like to bring up to people is why you need, and they refer to it in a security world as defense in depth. You have to have so many processes in place and so many layers in order to protect you from all of that. And that's why we keep all the patches up to date. We have the antivirus, we have the web filtering. And web filtering goes into as well of making sure that they don't go onto phishing sites. Your firewall can only do so much when it comes to that because so many of the sites are encrypted. Matter of fact, now they've even noted that most of the sites that are for phishing and attacking, because Let's Encrypt is free, they've automated the deployment of these sites using Let's Encrypt certificates. So, yeah, there's so much of invisibility because of that, and encryption certificates are free now. It's become harder and harder to look into the visibility network, so you need like an endpoint solution. You need a firewall solution to block the basics and the amateurs, as I put it, and then you need the endpoint protection, and then user training is a whole piece of this as well, because you need to know how your users are getting phished, you need to know how they're getting attacked and how people are coming at them. Now, a few other things in here. Let's go back over to some of the scripting. And let me see if actually I want to see too. What's pending on this? Waiting first run. Can I force a run? Yeah, we'll try and run this one too. Now, this is another part of the SolarWinds stuff that we use. So this is the data breach risk, PCI scan, security scan. And one of the things that's important about this comes back to the endpoint is your user is sometimes at risk because you found out that he saved a bunch of credit card information on text files in Word documents all over their computer. This is another asset that another risk intelligence tool that we use from SolarWinds to help sort all of this out with those companies to figure out what they're doing. Someone says, is any comment on Unify IDS IPS? Unify is really basic what they're trying to do with it. The Unify system is just so dumbed down as the best way to describe it. Like they threw in, I believe it was Suricata under the hood, but they didn't give you a lot to go with. There's not a lot of fine tuning with it. It's not like Pfsense. So it's undoubtedly using. I don't know what feed rules they're using, but if I had to surmise that they are just getting the standard OINT codes from Talos Security. So if you're not familiar with it, OINT code, you can get for free. You can get the basic OINT code for free from the Snort people. So let's pull up Snort, and pretty much they are the standard. So even this is Snort is run by Talos Security. Talos Security is owned by Cisco, and they're the people that put together the rules that they have on there. Client we have used SolarWinds AV. They got crypto-locked. Now they're on Sophie. Here's the thing. You need to have a lot more details because SolarWinds doesn't even make the AV. Was the AV patched? Was the AV up to date? Were they using the Viper old system? Or were they using the new one, Bitdefender? And it's hard because all these companies are reactive. I don't care which antivirus company. This is where I don't think there's any real good antivirus tests. All the antivirus companies are reactive. All of them do the same thing. They react to finding something in the wild, creating a signature for it, and going, hey, here we go. They try to use heuristics. And here's one of the behind-the-scenes problems that you don't know, but people in InfoSec know. People move from those antivirus teams. The antivirus team's only as good as the team on there. So if their team falls apart or they don't have the smart people on that team, they're less good at getting those results. So at any given moment, any antivirus will find this. Now, the good thing is, what the market is shifting to is some consolidation, more companies sharing this information with each other. By doing that, we are getting better signatures because they're more willing to share openly, and they have a methodology to do so. Some of the signatures on it as the threats come out, but once again, we're still reacting. We're constantly reacting to things all the time and new threats that are emerging out there, which is what gives companies like Zerodium. This is why they pay out so much. So if you look at something like the 0-day payouts for stuff they have in here, you're talking up to $1 million for some of these payouts. Why? Because no one has seen the pattern of attack used, so you can sell it to places like this. This can be a little bit shady. Yeah, you can see where the problems are in this and why are they worth so much, because they haven't been picked up by antivirus. They haven't been picked up by a Snort OINT code to identify them as an attack vector. Therefore, they're very valuable out in the market to find a IIS hack, an Apache hack, Chrome, and some of those. So once again, the value of them is because people want to use them, and until they get seen in the wild and someone understands what they are, classifies and categorizes them, and then the antivirus companies go, oh, now we know what this thing is because we've seen a research project, and you look at the people like, I'm going to pull up Talos Security. And like I said, Talos is the one who produces this help. Well, they're a contributor to. They own Snort, and the Snort rules also feed Suricata. Suricata and Snort are essentially the same type of IDS system. That's fed by this, and that's a bunch of security researchers that are funded by Cisco that publish all this data and put it all back out there. So it's kind of a big ecosystem. It's huge, and it's also a cat and mouse game. There's always a new version of some new software on there, and that software gets found, gets documented, they create codes for it. It's security is always just best effort. I hate anyone who guarantees security. You're full of it. You can't. There is not a way to do it. It's always a best effort. We use best-in-class tools. I hate that as a marketing term, but it's also true. I can't guarantee that you'll never get hit with this or that or the other because there's always new vulnerabilities. As much as Chrome, and if you haven't seen, there's a new CVE for Chrome out. Make sure you have Chrome up to date. They found a flaw in it. Google's being hush about that flaw. I think we go to Reddit. Sorry, that's it. Whereas I think it was a top post on Reddit. But it's one of the new CVs on there. Yeah, right here. There's a new CV attack on it. Same thing. No one's seen it coming. They found it in the wild before they seen it. So they had to push an update. And basically, it appears, as I understand this, and this is what's interesting too, according to the CEO of their vulnerability allegedly lets malicious code to escape Chrome security sandbox and run commands on the underlying OS. And back to our friends at Zerodium, who probably paid dearly for it, then sold it to someone who wanted to do the attack. I don't know the details. I'm just guessing because it may have been how it happened. So yeah, security plus Bryce says here, layers of security monitoring and layers is the only true way to protect, but nothing's 100%. That's so true. And this is why. Because now you have something, because it was all encrypted and can get into Chrome, and we'll actually pull the tweet up that's related to this. Google discovered Chrome 0 day in his wild CV, reportedly full chain sandbox exploit. Here's a Google blog post. That's what we really want. So if you're not familiar with how even Chrome's working, Chrome's creating a series of sandboxes in order to try to contain all of this. But then someone found a bug clearly that allows them to escape the sandbox and run on the underlying operating system. And this is something else. Let's roll all the way back to, the SolarWinds. Why are we doing so many patches? This is why. We're trying to keep all the systems completely patched and all the software on there patched. And we made sure when we seen this come out the other day, we made sure we got everyone up on the latest Chrome system. Everyone pushed all the updates on there because once again, this cuts through all your layers of security. It goes right through your IDS system and your firewall because no one knew about it. Plus, it's encrypted, so your IDS system was probably blind to it. Gets into the browser, so it's probably getting around the antivirus, and then it underlyingly runs something on your operating system. So it's a mess top to bottom, and these are the threats that we face here in 2019. And those threats are going to evolve and change as time goes on, and they never get easier. It always gets more challenging to protect these systems. There's just too many moving parts on this. So this is one of the reasons, like I said, this is why we use these dashboards. This is why we use the RMM tool, so we can make sure we're doing everything we can and throwing it out there. I'm also going to plug Huntress Labs. That's one more tool. Now, SolarWinds has a tool too, but we decided to go third party because, well, if we were watching SolarWinds, Huntress Labs is our friends who pull them up real quick. They make a really simple, really tiny little executable that just babysits these computers and lets us know if something happens that gets by all the other layers of defense. It's not a defense tool per se. It is a notification that something got through. And even though it gets through, it means it got onto the system, and we can start debugging it from there. And I found Huntress Labs, and what makes these people interesting to me is the fact that they are they're really good at doing the debrief drop-in research, and that's why I've used them as an example a couple times in my videos. That's how I found them. They do great security briefs and breakdowns because of the knowledge they have by being inside of people's networks, and they're able to find new 0 days on there. Unfortunately, new 0 days found means someone got hacked. Just hopefully it's not you that they found the 0 day on, but they do excellent debriefs. And I'm going to be doing some videos on working with them because when we did a site cleanup using Huntress Labs, they were amazing. The type of intelligence that they were able to help provide us in terms of the visibility they gave into certain network functions and how we remove some of the registry keys to get these out. Huntress Labs did an awesome job, and I'm going to be doing like a debrief talking about security incidents with them, how we handled them, how we did it. So a lot of times we take over clients. We're going to be taking over another client here by the end of this month. There's a lot that has to be cleaned up. No MSP client have we ever taken on. Well, maybe there's a little bit of an exception because of the way it was done. Has there not been some type of cleanup work? And I see the exception is we took over a new MSP client, but one of the things they did was they cared nothing, so to speak, other than the data. They just wanted the data. They wanted all new computers. And that was great. So we came in and didn't have to do any cleanup work because our RMM tools and everything were all loaded on brand new computers. They just needed a database and a handful of documents copied over. The database runs their software for a dental office, and the files are just some Word documents which we scanned, and everything was cool. So it's just one of those, rare occasions that someone says, yeah, we're cool for a rip and replace. I would love to always do a rip and replace. That's the best way I can, start clean and put everything in right. But unfortunately, when you take over a client who's got 40, 50 computers, they're not always ready to rip and replace their network, disrupt everyone, and replace all the computers. It's an ideal thing. It usually happens over time. But that's where Huntress Labs comes in. Deploying it on a client that was existing, we found things on there that we found really interesting. Nothing was too major, but it was still interesting to find some of them. We found a small company that had a banking Trojan that was weird because some of the antivirus didn't quite get it. It kept saying something was there, but it wouldn't remove it. So we used the Huntress Labs tool to help locate and figure out what it was. It was kind of minor stuff, but it was still interesting to find all of it on there, and we feel better now that it was cleaned up. Now, the interesting part is it was being blocked. So the tool we found deployed on the computer, but it was not allowed to make active connections because the IP ranges it was trying to connect to were blocked. This is where the firewall can help you with things like we use PF Blocker with Pfsense. It will block some of those connections. So cool, the connections were sinkholed on that particular workstation, but not so cool, it somehow got on the workstation. But they didn't have antivirus at all on there when we had taken them over. Can you post a link for what? What do you do for remote access to the web interface on Pfsense? SSH is probably my favorite way to do it. We SSH in, and it allows us to. You can SSH in Tunnel, and when you do SSH in Tunnel, you can get in. The other thing you can do is filtered web interface. So you open up the web port to, if you have a static IP like we do. Oh, you want a link for Huntress Labs? Yeah. It's just huntress-labs.com. But if you have a static IP, you can go ahead and get, you filter for that IP. So only our office IP may log into there. So you create a rule in Pfsense that says only allow this IP to the port that you have assigned for the web interface. And you don't always put the web interface. Well, actually, I recommend not putting it on 443 to begin with. In case they ever need 443 forwarded, you don't want to have any stupid conflict problems where you want to forward one and the other. There's ways you can wrap rules around it so it doesn't. But put the web interface. I'm going to do a video on this, maybe even today, depending on how I feel, on exactly how to do that. Hot sauce version. Yeah, voting for. Thank you very much, UNX format. Voting for Lawrence Systems to make one firewall hot sauce version 127.0.1. I like it. And we have our firewall at the office, so we've we've got that as well. So I forgot. I got lost track for a second here. Anyways. With SSH tunneling, you open up the SSH port. You can set it to username and password. You can, or just put it like with SSH keys, not just username and password. I mean SSH keys, and then you can remote in via that. I'm going to set up remote access for a Edge Router 4. I'm going to set up with LTP over IPsec. VPN for doing that. Yeah, OpenVPN is a great way to do it as well. That's a really solid method. OpenVPN is really secure. L2TP is secure. The problem, and you may not have this, Lars. Hey, thank you, Bryce, for $10 on that. Awesome. And Lars, you may have a problem with this, or not, because if it's just you. L2P has a problem with multiple NAT. So L2TP. Is it multiple NAT? I'm trying to remember how to word it right. No, it doesn't work with PepLink. So there we go. This should be the write-up that'll kind of explain what's going on. Multiple L2 TP IPsec behind a NAT device. This is where there's a lot more you have to do. And the reason why, this is one of the reasons that you need to build when you're building the VPNs like this, if you have more than one person natted that wants to connect to an L2 TP VPN, it starts getting confused. And that's what this is a write-up about right here. I'm not going to read all of it, but I just know from dealing with this issue, there are issues and there's tricks to setting it up that way. This is one of the reasons OpenVPN is so popular. And I'm planning on doing an OpenVPN video specifically on why OpenVPN is such a popular choice and just talk about VPNs in general, because this is a constant question people get. Why do you like OpenVPN? Why would you recommend that over this? I'm like, well, it's because it just cuts through NAT. It cuts through layers easier. And there's even ways, if you tweak OpenVPN, that you can get it set up over, wrap it over SSL, which breaks and, well, not really breaks, gets around IDS systems that block OpenVPN. Because this is obviously a real problem, is a lot of people, they want to use OpenVPN. Actually, my friend had to take someone to the hospital, and he says, well, I'm there, I'll do some work. Well, the hospital blocks OpenVPN connections. They just don't allow them. So now what? It becomes a different challenge, because he's like, well, if I can't do any OpenVPN, how do I get work? How do I get work done? So this is where you have to either wrap it in SSL or use things like SSH over proxy. He was actually able to SSH proxy out, which is another option. So we have Jeff here. Love my Pfsense. Turn me on to it. IPS IDS loaded and all. Awesome. The router, the force and bridge mode, so I think this will work. It should. So that should work. PC engines, APU2. I've never tested the APU2 PC engines. I've had people mention it to me. I don't know. Downside, they're out of stock right now. The Pfsense has the SG1100. That's what I'm using at home. I love it. It works great. This doesn't look bad. I've seen people mention it. I've never tested it, so I can't give you a real objective opinion on it. I've seen people say, yeah, it works, but I don't know. So we'll go with yes, it's a good idea. I don't know, but I can't objectively tell you. See, I installed FreePBX on EA. Love Pfsense, but installed FreePBX and have issues with outbound calls. Getting all circuits are busy now. All inbound work okay. That is probably so there is no weird or special settings in my Pfsense to make FreePBX work. There are plenty of settings in my FreePBX to make sure it NATs properly. And that's because there's different ways to configure FreePBX, the ideal way you want to configure it. And this is, if you go through my video with Chris, we talk about this, and Chris is the reason I know this. You want to set it up so FreePBX is calling outbound to the SIP provider back through the firewall. Why do you want to do it that way? You don't have to open any ports, because the FreePBX is initiating the connections and bringing them back to itself. Therefore, there's no ports open on your firewall. So my firewall, if you scanned it, you would find nothing open related to SIP or PBX, because we don't need it. So makes it a lot easier to do it that way. Is the problem with the client double NAT or only with the server with LTP? It's the client being double NATed, but also the server. The server needs to be public facing as well, or in a bridge mode. This is just problems you're going to run into with L2TP or IPsec. So they need to be right on the public interface. If not, you can have more trouble doing it. IPsec site to say it works. Okay, yeah, as long as it's working. WireGuard, I think WireGuard's pretty cool. WireGuard's not ready for prime time. I think it's a neat VPN system. It's not ready for prime time yet. Once it gets integrated in the kernel and becomes popular, awesome. Right now, it's a good VPN system from what I've heard, but I've not really tested it. And that's about it. I got nothing else to really say about it. It's just not. So I like the simplicity of it. I like that it's much smaller than OpenVPN. Streisand Gateway VPN is pretty awesome. And I've done videos on how to set up OpenVPN server, and we'll actually pull this up here while we're on. So we go Streisand. And my friend used this when he was overseas, and he was able to use it to get by. And I'll drop a link right here. I just Googled Streisand VPN. But what this is, and yes, it's named after the Streisand effect. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you can look up what it is. What this allows you to do is set up VPNs and push them out so they work over. It's actually got shadow socks, I think, is one of the, and Ssh Tunnel. Basically, what you're doing is you're setting this up so you can do, and it does support WireGuard as well. It supports a lot of different firewall configurations and firewall/VPN configurations. And the goal is being able to get out and avoid deep packet inspection. So if whatever you're using allows 443 SSL, which a lot of websites or a lot of filtering systems, they do. So you mask all of the tunnel traffic in, you're obfuscating the traffic to make it look like a standard HTTPS connection, because an HTTPS connection is encrypted. The deep packet inspection goes, well, it's HTTPS, I can't see in it, but I allow it. Versus if you're looking at an OpenVPN stream, the system understands that it's OpenVPN and goes, no, that is not allowed on a network. It looks like you're trying to do something bad. We're just going to block you from getting OpenVPN. But by making the VPN traffic, whichever VPN of your choice, wrapped in a standard SSL TLS connection. I say SSL because I'm old, but the standard TLS connection, and making it look like standard traffic, you can get around the high DPI systems, and that's what this is for. You just have to have a server that you're allowed to connect it to, and that becomes the next challenge. I know I've gotten messages from people asking me for suggested servers, and there's not really a lot I can suggest on the server side. And what I mean by that is in some of the countries, they block hosting companies such as Linode, such as DigitalOcean and AWS. So finding a place that you can connect to and build your server in the cloud becomes a different challenge, because they know they can't see the traffic, so they block your ability to get to the servers. This is something Russia did. This is it's common, so a lot of those nation states that are more restrictive, China, they block a lot of just access to open servers. Matter of fact, China, if I'm not mistaken, blocks Google still. I think you can, if one of my clients travels back and forth, and there is, China can Gmail is blocked in China by default. You have to do some trickery to get around it. One of my clients who travels back and forth, this is one of the challenges they have, is getting through there. And it's even in the Google product forums that they block it. It's not actually Google restricting it. So does GC Record Channel, like I said, it's China. They just go, we're just going to block that. We're lucky here in the U.S. As of right now, there's not any type of issues related. In other words, dictators love it. Dictators love high DPI systems that block lots of things. They block it based on IP address. And of course, this is going to be interesting to watch. Russia. This connects internet. So they're planning a test. If you didn't know, Russia plans to disconnect as part of a planned test. Now, this is actually not unprecedented for the U.S. They've done this too. Forever ago, there was some experiments done, and one of my friends, this goes back almost 18 or 19 years ago, there were some experiments run by the DoD, and they wanted to know how they weren't sure just how interconnected everything was. This was around 1999, 2000, and they realized the difficulty, especially here in the U.S., that we've now put so many things together, it's actually hard to pull the plug and disconnect. So it's one of those things. See, someone says, I'm using AirVPN by time, but I'm moving to PETA in a month. I don't know where PETA is. But this is one of those things. Like it's difficult to do. It's difficult to disconnect. Request to this server has been blocked. So I don't know. I'm not sure why I have that blocked. Probably for good reason. So I have no idea what AirVPN is. I actually have recommended before and done videos on this. I need to do a few more, make some updated ones. I'm having trouble typing today. PIA VPN. Anyways, there's a link below if you want to go for PIA VPN. Of the ones I've reviewed, they seem pretty straightforward. But as I always say with any of these VPNs, all you're doing is kicking the bucket of trust down there. You're trusting the VPN company not to turn you in. And day turns in Stalker because this has happened before as well. Yeah, that should have read PIA VPN. Okay, that makes sense. Supposedly non-existent VPN logs help catch Internet Stalker. Good news is they caught Internet Stalker, who was a horrible, horrible human being who needed to be caught, who did awful, nasty things. Interesting part is they had logs. You're invisible even when we cannot see what you do online. So, yeah, there's the problem. I don't use DDNS, so I don't have any recommendations. I know years ago dynamic DNS was a thing, but I don't use any DDNS, so all my IPs are static. So, well, I take that back. My home IP is not static, but it also doesn't matter to me because it doesn't change very often at all. It's very rare my home IP address changes. Pretty much it only changes when I swap out firewalls. So dynamic DNS used to be really popular. I haven't used them in forever. So yeah, here, 7 best DNS. I have no idea if this is relevant. Secure Point. I didn't know they were called Secure Point now. Hey, look, they're Germany based. So if you like stuff in Europe, yeah, I don't have a good recommendation on there. Duck DNS. Something you might want to look up dynamic DNS companies, and maybe Duck DNS does this, that also support Let's Encrypt's DNS authentication. Because if you're going to ever use Let's Encrypt cert, there's actually Let's Encrypt DNS options for doing certs. No IP. I haven't heard that name in a long time, but yeah, they were popular years ago. I have not had to use dynamic DNS since the early days of like dial-up and things like that. So it's been a minute since I've researched any of those companies. So I don't have much of a recommendation on that. So network engineering questions you want to ask. We're going in about an hour on this, but I'm always willing to go a little further. I'm not too much up against the clock yet. I do have a few things I have to do, but right now my staff is handling all those. Is there any network engineering questions that people have for doing this? Because something else I'm thinking about doing a video on, and let's gauge your interest on this. The Tor network, you can use things like, well, it's a combination of things. It's using proxy chains with Tor. My mic is clipping. I don't know how to stop it from clipping because I didn't know. No one, is anyone else hear my mic clipping? Anyways, proxy chains is something else I was thinking about doing a video on because that allows, let me clear this. Proxy chains, if you're not familiar. I'm never going to do probably not ever likely to do an IPv6 video with OpenVPN. Back to my favorite catchphrase, I don't have a use case for that. But proxy chains, let me see if it's sudo service. Let me start my Tor service. VICE Tor start. I have trouble typing today. There we go. Yeah, IPv6 is awful. There's so many bugs in it because there's not enough people using it, which also means it's hard to ever get debugged because there's so many people using it. It's kind of a challenge. So proxy chains, if I were to do something like this, so if I were to type curl ifconfig.me, it would pull in my public IP address. So if we use proxy chains, though, what proxy chains does, and we're going to go curl ifconfig.me. And now my public IP address has changed to this. 104.244.76.131. That's not my public IP address, by the way. Well, let's go a step further. Let's run proxy change and open up Firefox. So kick off the proxy chains. Just watch it going over here. Oops. ifconfig.me. What's your favorite Linux distro to use? Looking to switch from MS. Right now I'm using Pop! OS. And Windows pulls it up fine. Not a network connection, but FreeNAS, fresh install, iSCSI, but beware it never wants to pull up when it does. Claim is degraded but functional. I don't understand that question. Greenash fresh setup. Ice. There's a problem with iSCSI. I'm not. You can email me, Vince, if you want, or post in our forums. That one didn't work. Apparently they blocked it. So see if this one works. There we go. This page worked. The other one must be down, or it didn't, or it's blocking. A lot of people block Tor. But in VMware, stupid autocorrect. I still don't understand the question. There we go. My IP address is 37187.180.18. So, which we know it's not. This is what proxy chains wraps things over into through Tor nodes, and I'm doing it from my desktop. So let me know if anyone's interested in a video on that. This is one of those things that I like to sit and play with and show you some of the ways you can do networking and do scanning. I'm in France right now, by the way. There we go. And I didn't do this with a VPN. I'm proxying through Tor without actually VPNing. So I'm bouncing through the Tor network to do this. If this is something people are interested in, or maybe I'll just do a video and see if people have an interest in this. So it's actually really easy to set up. It runs in Linux. I don't know that you can do this in, well, you probably could. I'm not going to do it, how to do it in Windows, but it's easy. It's kind of cool how this works, because one of the things you may want to test, and my use case for this, why I do this, is back to the white hat that I have to put on. I want to test firewalls. So I test firewalls from different countries, different locations. I'll try to attack them, and I want to make sure that things are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Also, kind of novel of what you see rolling across the bottom is the telemetry data going back and forth. The proxy change does also break down how I'm doing telemetry to other things. It's wrapping all the DNS connections in it. It's wrapping everything in there. So, and you may have noticed how easy this was to launch. And I can launch any program like this. So I can spin something up with proxy chains, then be outside my network. Matter of fact, I can proxy chain from here and SSH back into my own network, or VPN into my own network. So you can actually kick off OpenVPN, and it's actually a really cool way to do this, because what you're able to do is be inside your network, leave your network, come back in externally without having to actually go to an external server, so you can test how something looks, or how something looks from the outside or works from the outside. You kind of have to self-host proxy chains, and that's why I need to do a more in-depth video, because I'll probably do some type of display of how it's building a proxy chain. Also, I want to do proxy chains for two things. I'm using it for Tor right here, but proxy chains is the tool that bridges proxies and lets you use a proxy across. So I have it tied into Tor. I can also SSH into something and use a proxy chain to be inside of another network. And so I need to spend a little time configuring it and making sure when I do these videos, I create some documentation in the back that I'm reading through to make sure I'm articulate and accurate when I do the video to present it. But yeah, if you guys are interested in this video, that only encourages me more. I've been wanting to make it anyways, because a few people had some questions about how I do things. But before that, I will do the SSH tunneling video, because they kind of are related. SSH tunneling is how I get to some of the other networks, so I can get into a client's network and see things on there without SSH. You can SSH tunnel, wrap it. You can even SSH tunnel, jump onto their network via the proxy, and then from there be inside their network to get something done. To SSH again into a server, SSH or wrap and look something in their server up without ever really VPNing in or setting anything up. You just proxy chain in because you have access to something like the firewall, and you can do this with Pfsense. You don't load the proxy chain in Pfsense, but Pfsense can be the gateway that you get into there. So there's a lot to it. So it's going to be a whole series of pieces, but it's fun. This is what, if you want to know what I do for fun and why I don't play a lot of video games, it's because I'm doing this. This is exciting to me, wrapping networks and networks so you can obfuscate things and go to France. By the way, if I want to change which country I'm in, you don't get to pick, because this is Tor. You don't get to pick which country you're in. You actually have to do it this way. Sudo service. Tor restart. Yeah, I'm still live streaming. Almost on my son's. What? No, okay. So I restarted Tor, and we're going to rerun proxy change in Firefox again here. Then we'll go back to the last website we were just at. So was it ifconfig. I think the CO one was working. What's my new? I was in France last time. Let's see where I go this time. Tor's fun because you just pop up anywhere. Tor's Tor. So it's thinking. How is SSH Tunnel different from a VPN? Only the protocol? Yeah, SSH is, there's a great book on SSH, and SSH will blow your mind all the different things you can use. Back before the days of OpenVPN, when I worked in corporate, I had actually built a series of SSH tunnels to connect our remote sites. That's actually how we were doing remote stuff back in the early days of the internet. So where am I at now? Does it have DE, Germany? So now I'm in Germany, different address. All I did was restart Tor. Every time you restart Tor, you pop out somewhere else. Every time it builds the Tor nodes. I do have some video I did on Tails and Tor. So yeah, SSH shuttle is one of those, because SSH can go both ways. SSH can go the way of bringing things in. You can actually have persistent SSH commands waiting for you by where everything connects back to you via SSH, and then you can then push settings back to those servers. And the SSH tunnels and the way the keys are used in it, excellent way of doing it. It keeps you, it keeps it really tight and secure, and SSH is a good protocol for managing it. Now, I'm going to bring this over here, and I will bring this up, and he's been on our show. Close that. I got too much stuff open. People ask why the screen flickers. I don't know. It does that when things open, when too many things get open. So let me start closing things again. All I do is close them and they all go away. So we'll pull up real quick. SSH mastery. There we go. I'm just going to throw this in here. And there's 2 books on this. There we go. But books on SSH mastery. Michael Lucas wrote them. My screen's going to go goofy. Let me see if I can close more things. That helped. That helped a lot. It's too many things open. It does it. I need a better video card probably. No comment on if I run a Tor node. But that book on SSH Mastery, it's from Michael Lucas. He's been on the show. Michael Lucas is awesome. He wrote not just 1, but 2 books on SSH. I think there's two versions of that book. Get that. That's great. Someone else says, I'm a newbie user of Pfsense. I'm a father of 2 teens. I want to learn how to set up Pfsense. Not to accept other DNS like Google bypass filter. Any tips? You can figure that out from, and I'll pull this up real quick. RTFM, I hate to say it like that, but if you go to Pfsense DNS redirect, the first result's not me, but Netgate. Exactly step-by-step how to redirect it. I'm going to drop this link in there for you. For Anders, here you go. I tell you, if you're time-rich, cache-poor, read. That's the best way to start reversing some of that situation. The documentation of Pfsense is excellent. I searched one thing, but they have all kinds of things. They have entire chapters on traffic shaping, certificate management. My videos, I love doing them. I can only do so many, but just read through their documentation. It's a labor of love. When you're done, I've read through it. There's a lot here, but man, they put it out there. Take advantage of it. All their books are free. Their documentation is free. I have a lot of videos on how to do a lot of specific tasks, walking you through them, but just a general, read the book first. It even helps it'll make my videos make even more sense if you read through some of the books that I've watch the videos, read this, the 2 in a combination of each other. If you read this first, you're going to be that much better off. So it's one of those things, put some time into it. But it will help you immensely with understanding Pfsense and things like that. Yeah, you just forward everything to the DNS that you're looking for. So that's exactly. So what else do we have for questions here? It's a Linus and NVIDIA thing. We'll go with that as an answer for the flickering. Absolutely. Woohoo! You got the I Am Root shirt. I love the I Am Root shirts. I gotta get more of them. I think they're my favorite ones right now. Is the I Am Root ones. I definitely like them. I have some. I wore it a couple times, and I got something on it, and it's in the wash right now. It's in the dirty clothes, and I gotta wash it. Maybe I'll wash clothes tonight. My personal life. So hopefully this is helpful. Matter of fact, if you just go here, I'll just drop this whole link for the Pfsense book. Read through it. I mean, there's a lot of documentation out there. I mean, I make a lot of videos, but a lot of my videos are based on stuff I read in documentation, or they start with ideas from the documentation. If you want that I Am Root background, I think you can pull it from my Twitter. I don't have a direct link for it. But if you go to my Twitter, I'll just post my Twitter here. There you go. You can steal the background from here. It's the same image. It's just on Twitter here. So if you're looking for it, that's another place you can grab it from. Just pull the background off my Twitter. So it's I don't know about Borked Compositor. It's just when I open too many windows and Chrome. It's a Chrome thing or Firefox, whatever it is. If I open too many tabs, it holds too much video memory and starts goofing things. So I'm aware of the problem, but I don't have an easy solution for it. I'm going to be rebuilding my computer, which I hope goes this way, because I know the new Ryzen prices are dropping on the new generation of Ryzen, and I've been wanting to build myself a Ryzen system. So yeah, that's going to be. I've played with all kinds of. I even tried. Someone suggested turning off 3D. I've spent time on it. No matter what I turn off, if I turn off like even a 3D rendering inside of Chrome, once a bunch of tabs get open, the screen flickers with OBS. Only with OBS. I turn off OBS, it goes away completely. So, yeah. No reason to go fiber until you're over 300 feet. That's true, but it's cooler to go fiber, Vince. I mean, come on. I mean, fiber interconnects between short distances look way neater than, DAC connections and stuff like that. I filter my son's wireless network with Cisco Umbrella, pretty cheap. Yeah, Cisco Umbrella is pretty popular. Filter thingy. Well, there was something called filter thingy, wasn't it? I don't remember. There was another plugin that you can get for Pfsense. It's a paid one, though. A lot of that filtering is there. So, all right. I'm going to wrap this up because I do have to get to a next project. Thank you for everyone coming to the live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it being earlier. How do I feel about Pfsense being virtually? It works. I prefer Pfsense hardware, so I don't have to deal with it being inside the virtual. Any thoughts on exploits in Intel CPU? By AMD. There's my thoughts on the Intel thoughts on there. Not much you can do. There are edge cases. To my knowledge, there's none in a while, but yeah. Yeah, Untangle's pretty good. Hit the thumbs up, like and subscribe, smash that like button, and all that stuff. Oh, fun times. Wow, I just noticed something new. I'm not doing this to you folks, but I will say I'm curious. I'm doing it out of a test before I leave. There's a play ad button. I have no idea how that works. I clicked the button. Did you guys just see an ad? I don't know. Playing ad based on a complex curiosity. Some of your viewers will keep on streaming. So it says playing ad. That button's new. I just noticed it over here. I'm not trying to bombard you with ads. I'm not that worried about it, but it's kind of novel that it has it there. So not yet. I don't know. I clicked the button. Oh, this is cool. It's got create highlight. Yeah, I don't know. It says, due to the complex nature, some users will see ad played, ad blocked. Oh, no. Okay, interesting. And there's a commercial. Okay, that's interesting. We're going to try something else. No, I'm not going to play another ad. Acronis is popular. I don't really use it. I've heard good things. It works. Create highlight. I don't know what this means. Oh, that's neat. Okay. Apparently, I can create a highlight inside of here, so I don't know how that... I'll play with that later. That's neat. YT Premium, Pi-hole blocking, 3 million domains, no ads here. All right. Yeah, ads suck. We know that. I got to be careful. YouTube does not like me saying ads suck and doing videos on ad blocking can cause some trouble. If you didn't watch Chris in his live stream, he brought that up before. So, Zentel, I'll address this again as a last question. People have asked about the Zentel small business server. To me, sticking everything from file sharing to firewall in one box seems like a recipe for disaster. I don't know. I don't have an interest in it. I like these things being separate. Putting it all in one magic box that handles everything seems like a recipe for problems. So yeah, I'm not big on your firewall and your server for your everything else on your network being the same box. I don't know. I don't know anything bad about it, but I don't have anything good. Yeah. And also it's free. I'm not clear on how it works. Free trial, open source. I'm fuzzy on that part of, is there like a Zentel.org where I can get an open source? Is it open source? I don't know. I don't know how good the integration is and things like that. So yeah, if you spread it across many VMs for redundancy, that's definitely going to help. Yeah. Okay, development edition, if you go to .org, so, okay, they have an open source edition. That's cool. What else we got here? Yeah, the Kanaka and Ulta thing, it makes me think that they worked out something with the Zentel people. I'd guess. I really don't know. Yeah, ClearOS, another one I'm not really, I don't know. I like my firewalls separate. I like them to be a physically separate device. They're not that expensive. That's not where, to me, a big expense is, but that's where a lot of risk is. So if anything happens with your firewall, and that also happens to be your file server, or just the off chance that your file and SMB sharing got bound to the WAN address, when they're physically separate, that's a lot less likely. When they're the same box, it's one config change to accidentally bind your SMB sharing to your WAN address and create a disaster for yourself. That's why I like them to be separate devices. You mitigate risks that way. So yeah, just one of those things. All right, thanks. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Look for some more videos coming soon. I'll do that proxy chain video because I think it'd be fun to break down. I like teaching people how some of the intricacies of networking work so they kind of have a better idea how to do some of those things. So do one thing and do it well. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's any truism in that or not. I don't know. I'm not going to get into philosophy today. So, all right, thanks and love everyone. Have fun, man.